Welcome to this week's Impact Youth Online. My name is Meredith Maynard and I am the Summer Youth Assistant here at Williams, and I just want to say we are so glad you're here. In just a few moments, Russell's going to bring our message, but first I want to mention a few things about small groups. Small groups are such an important part of what we do here at Impact Youth. They are a place you can meet with other students, share about what's going on in your life, talk about your struggles, and be accepted just as you are. We think everyone benefits from being a part of a small group. They are kind of like family. So at the bottom of your screen there is a code. We want you to text @ISM-GROUPS to 81010, and when you do, we'll make sure to connect you with your small group leader for this semester. They will contact you with more information, like when you're meeting and more details. Again, we are so glad you are watching this and we are looking forward to this series. Now here's Russell with tonight's message.
I shared in week 1 that I have 2 siblings. I'm the oldest and then my brother is next, and finally my baby sister is the youngest of the group. I remember when I was finishing up my senior year in high school and I had chosen to go to the school I was going to. It was East Texas State University in Commerce, and that spring I graduated and we had a typical summer. But then came the time for me to go off to school. And so I loaded everything up in the back of my car and I embarked on this 6-hour journey to college. And I had a blast. I met new people, I made new friends, and then my first semester was going great and I came home for Thanksgiving. And I talked to my brother and everything was good, but when it came to my sister, she seemed different. She wasn't the same around me as she was before I left. I didn't think much about it until we were having a conversation years later. It turns out she was really mad at me for leaving. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything to hurt her intentionally, but just the act of me leaving and going away for so long, she was mad at me. And I had no idea. Maybe I didn't know because she didn't tell me, or maybe I didn't know how she felt because I didn't listen. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that we should have had a conversation. It might not have been the most pleasant conversation, but if we had taken time to talk about it, to sit down and say how we felt, it might have helped her understand why I had to go. And it might have helped me understand how it made her feel. Have you ever had a situation where you needed to have a tough conversation with your family? Maybe it would have been awkward, and maybe it would have been difficult. But there are some times where we need to have tough conversations as a family. It might be because there was a misunderstanding and someone's feelings were hurt, or maybe a bad decision was made, or maybe someone needs to apologize or ask for forgiveness. Unfortunately, it's easier to avoid difficult conversations with our families instead of having them. But in this series, we are talking about how our families can be atypical. And atypical families have tough conversations. We've already read about 2 families in the Bible who had their own problems and issues: Adam and Eve and Abraham's family. And we've also seen that God never gave up on these families, and He used these families to do great things, and how He will use your family in the same way. Today we're going to talk about another family. That is Isaac and Rebekah and their sons Jacob and Esau. And I'm going to summarize this story, but I invite you to go and read the whole thing. The scripture reference will be below and also in your small group guides. Isaac and Rebekah had 2 sons. Esau was older and had lots of red hair like a garment all over him. Jacob was second. Esau was a skilled hunter, and Jacob stayed home and tended livestock. Isaac loved Esau, and Rebekah loved Jacob. Now one day Jacob was cooking stew, and Esau was starving, and Esau said, "Hey, let me have some of your stew." Jacob said, "Okay, but only if you give me your birthright." Now this is important because there are a lot of things given to whoever had the birthright. They were in charge, they had authority over other members in their family, so Esau gives over his birthright for a bowl of stew. But that's not the only time Jacob takes something from Esau. Years later, when Isaac, the father, was dying, he asked one last favor of Esau. He said, "Go and hunt and make me some of that stew that you make so well, and I will give you my blessing." Rebekah heard this and remembered Jacob was her favorite, and she had Jacob go and kill a lamb, and then she prepared it to taste just like the stew Esau would make. And with the help of some fur placed on Jacob's arms to make him seem more like Esau, Jacob took the stew to Isaac. And Isaac tasted the stew and felt Jacob's arms and thought it was Esau, so he gave his blessing to Jacob. So Jacob stole Esau's birthright and the blessing of his father. You can imagine that Esau had every right to be mad at Jacob. Imagine you were next in line for a great inheritance that would set you up for life and make you influential and important, and then your little brother or sister came along and stole it all from you. You'd be mad, right? So this sets up for a very awkward meeting many years later, and this is found in Genesis 33, 1 through 17. Jacob is minding his own business, and all of a sudden he looks up and sees Esau. And you can imagine what's going through his head. What is Esau going to do? He's probably going to kill me. So Jacob and his family are before Esau, and Jacob sends a bunch of flocks and herds as a gift to appease Esau. And Jacob bows down to his brother 7 times. And what would you do if you were Esau? I mean, Jacob took everything from him at one time. When you read verse 4, it might surprise you. It says this, Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him and threw his arms around his neck and kissed him. And they wept. And then Esau looked up and saw the women and children and said, "Who are these with you?" I can imagine that Jacob was surprised. I'm sure he didn't expect to be welcomed. He probably expected some sort of fight or retaliation, or at least the silent treatment. But Jacob then introduces his family and gives Esau the gift of the herds and the flocks, which Esau accepts. What would you have done if you had the same thing happen? What if someone wronged you, took something from you and made you really mad, and then a few weeks later you're walking through the grocery store and you see them? Esau didn't show up ready to retaliate. He was ready for a conversation. Jesus also encourages us to have tough conversations. In Matthew 18, verse 15, it says, "If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they will not listen, take 1 or 2 others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses." Jesus says when you have a conflict with someone, don't retaliate, don't give them the silent treatment, don't avoid them. If you have an issue, then have a conversation. So how do we do that? Well, the conversation might be difficult, but there are some simple steps you can take to begin the healing process. First, you can ask, "Hey, can we talk about this?" Second, listen. I mean, really listen. Don't listen with something ready to say, but try to understand their point of view. Be honest. Be open about what you think and feel, even if it's hard. Admit when you're wrong. And value your relationship. Put your relationship above having to be right. As we wrap up, I want to ask you to ask yourself, are there tough conversations I need to have with my family? I pray that God will give you the opportunity and the courage to have those conversations. When conflicts happen, we typically get bitter and avoid talking about things. But imagine what God could do in and through your family if you committed to resolving your conflicts through conversations.
Satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. Your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you.
morning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn stones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing that's better than you. Nothing is better than you. Oh, nothing. Nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can.
As we close, I want to remind you about signing up for small groups using the code below. Also, we'd love for you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.